we ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, thank you. I think we have an echo. Hello, hello, hello. Is there anybody out there? Oh, oh.
Let's give that a shot and see if it works. Yeah.
Hello? I believe it stopped. Okay, very good. We'll begin the Planning Committee / Council review of the 2024 capital budget. What I'll ask, though, is for whenever everyone speaks, please make sure you introduce yourself. Some of us are here together for the first time. We have some newer members here that are present, and we'll let all the council members introduce themselves. I'm sure everyone knows who they are, but I just think that would be appropriate. And we'll start here with the table and then go to Mr. Hardy and go around the horseshoe here. And I've asked Helen Tomic to please kind of go slowly and methodically, and what we'll do is after every slide, I'll ask if there's any questions. I'm going to also ask, though, if everyone can please be mindful of our time. We do have a meeting at 6:30 this evening, and so we don't want to go into overtime. So, because it'll just make next week's meeting even longer. So, with that, everyone over here, and then we'll go this way.
Amy Woodall, Capital Planning.
Thank you.
Jim Ashley, Capital Planning.
Helen Tomic, Long Range Planning Manager.
James Hardy, Ward 8 City Councilman.
Sharon Connor, Ward 10 councilperson.
Tina Boys, Ward 9 councilperson.
Jeff Fusco, at large.
Johnny Hanna, Ward 5 councilman.
Phil Lombardo, Ward 2 councilman.
Linda Mobian at large.
Jan Davis, Ward 4 councilwoman.
Eric Garrett at large.
Is that everyone?
Brad McKittrick, Ward 6.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Helen Tomic. And again, please be methodical. And after every slide, I'll look around and see if there's any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Madam Chair, Madam President, Mr. Chair, and council members, thank you for the opportunity to present an overview of the 2024 capital budget. Every year, long-range planning staff prepares an annual capital investment and community development program, better known as the capital budget. So what is the capital budget? We'll start off with that. The capital budget funds major improvements to items such as public infrastructure. That includes streets, bridges, sidewalks, water lines, and sewer lines. Also public facilities that could include community centers, pools, public parks, and other city-owned facilities. Typically, funds from the capital budget are not used for personnel costs and annual operating budget costs. That will be presented to you at a later date. Operating budget costs include personnel costs and the maintenance of some of the capital budget items we're talking about, but what will be covered today is just the infrastructure part of the capital budget. The capital budget program is annually revised document that provides guidance for city investments in the forthcoming year. The budget is supported through multiple funding sources, and we will be reviewing those. That could include funding sources from the state, the federal government, grants, and debt. The budget presented to you is for the upcoming fiscal year, January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. The city has regularly reached out to staff members about this whole process, and I will talk about that a little bit later, kind of mapping out the framework of how the capital budget process works. But before we get started, I wanted to thank the city staff for helping us in this process. We've reached out to them many times to discuss each and every one of these projects, making sure that we get it right. And there may be instances where we have to come to you with changes. We anticipate some amendments to the budget before the final vote, which we hope would be on February 12th. Also wanted to provide a huge thank you to the mayor for his guidance in this process and for constantly reminding us that we have to be fiscally responsible as we move forward with these projects. So today we're going to focus on transportation, public facilities, miscellaneous, economic development, and housing. Next week we will focus on parks, recreation, water, and sewer. And as stated earlier today, per city charter, this budget must be passed by February 15th, which is a Thursday this year. So we're hoping with passage on February 12th, on Monday.
And I'd like to add, if I could,
Sure.
Ms. Tomek, we will see legislation on every one of these
Correct.
line items before it proceeds. So we basically get two shots at everything that's within this capital budget. We'll get legislation later on moving forward on it. So.
Thank you for that reminder. And throughout this presentation, there have been some items that have been passed by council last year. They were in the design phases. Council passed those items. We are presenting construction phase this year. So as we run across those, we will identify those.
Thank you.
So what we're going to cover today is the budget process, the budget summary, which is going to be a lot of numbers. As I indicated before, transportation, parks, public facilities, miscellaneous, economic development, and housing. So how did we get here? City staff released what we refer to as a capital investment request form. Those were released to council members and to different divisions throughout the city in early May. Staff members and council members have an opportunity to complete those forms, and they send it back to us for review. The city long-range planning staff then reviews each and every one of those items. We have discussions about different projects. We reach out with division staff members. We talk through each and every project. Once that process is reviewed, we discuss the projects with the planning director. Then it goes to the mayor. Per city charter, we then present the capital budget to Planning Commission at the end, sometime in December. The capital budget then is released to City Council before December 31st of every year. We then start these hearings. We go through each and every line item in the capital budget with you before we present a final capital budget for passage, like I said, before February 15th. So we kind of laid out the process for you in this PowerPoint presentation. This is very similar to what I just discussed, but this one has dates. So in for the 24 capital budget, we released the applications on July 1st. They were due to us on September 1st. We presented to Planning Commission on December 15th. Our first hearing is today, January 22nd. The second hearing will be January 29th. And then, like I said, passage on February 12th. So that talks about the process, and now we'll get into details about the actual budget. This is the numbers part. So we're looking at a budget today at approximately $360 million. That includes funding from various sources. 55% of the budget is funded through the state. 18% of it is funded through the federal government. And our share is about 25%. So this kind of lays out in a comparison between 2023 and 2024, the differences between local share, federal share, state share. Although in some instances it may be, you may question why there's a difference, such a huge difference in different categories, but please keep in mind projects change every year. Funding sources change every year. So some years we may utilize more federal funds, the following year more state funds. So that's just a fluid process depending on grant applications that were applied for and received. So when you look at the capital budget in the second column, I believe it's the second column, it's talking about funding sources. There's initials there. And all of those initials are associated with the funding source. So as you're going through it and you think, okay, what is CSF? Refer to the beginning of the budget and that'll tell you those are sewer capital funds, and at the top, it will also identify those for you as local funds, state funds, and federal funds. So in this example, the local share of the capital budget is about $91.7 million. I might have to put on my glasses. Of that, I'll highlight just a couple of them. The sewer capital fund is approximately $13 million. The general obligation debt is approximately $11.7 million, and income tax is approximately $53.4 million. So we go from the local share to the regional share, which is about $2.4 million, and in some instances, the city of Cuyahoga Falls helped us with some projects, and those are all borderline infrastructure projects that border either Cuyahoga Falls or Fairline, so they helped us with some of those infrastructure costs. That deals with the regional revenue, and then we go into the state revenue, which is about $197 million. Here, we apply for these funds. So we applied for and received about $3 million from the Ohio Department of Transportation, $14 million from OPWC, or the Ohio Public Works Commission, and about $130 million from the Water Pollution Control Loan Funds. The next section is the federal share. We're looking at about $64 million. Again, most of these are applied for. Most of them are competitively applied for. Some of these funds are, at least for the Community Development Block Grant, those are what we refer to as entitlement funds. It's a formula-based, and we will receive X amount of dollars from the feds as long as we submit an application and that application is approved. So for the federal share this year, we can talk about ARPA dollars, American Rescue dollars. We're anticipating spending about $34 million this year. CDBG, I just mentioned, about $6.9 million, and FEMA, about $403,000. There's also a small section in the budget dealing with private funds. This is primarily special assessments for all of our infrastructure projects. The roads that we improve, we do assess the homeowners. So our anticipated collection in 2024 is about $4 million.
Any questions referencing the revenue side? Okay, good. Thank you. Linda Mobian.
I'm sorry. It's not a question, it's just as pretty much a comment. When we talk about the block grant dollars, are we still talking about community? Do they rename that?
It's still Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, correct.
Now, will we know exactly how much we're getting, or when will we know?
We will know, so once Congress passes the budget, HUD has 60 days to release those numbers to us.
Okay.
So once that 60 days is passed, then we have 60 days, although there's sometimes an extension, to submit our application to HUD. So as of today, Congress has not passed the budget. So once they pass it, that day starts the clock ticking, 60 days for them to release those numbers to us.
For whatever reason, these are the dollars that are most malleable, that you could use whatever you want to as decided by the community. It'd be nice to know exactly how much we're getting and how they're obligated. Thank you.
So that will come back to you. We will bring the consolidated budget back to you once Congress releases those numbers to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Helen?
So let's talk about expenditures. So we talked about $360 million. Of that, 57%, or $205 million is allocated for water and sewer, which is quite a large chunk. The remaining $155 million is reserved for economic development, transportation, parks, recreation, public facilities, and housing and community services. So how is that other section split out? So we actually look at that. The water and sewer is one side, but the other section of that pie, what does that look like? So that $155 million that I mentioned, that is then broken out into $45 million for parks and recreation, or almost 30% of the budget. Transportation is approximately 13% of the budget, or $20.1 million. There is a significant share that goes to our debt service, $38 million, or 25%. So the debt service is projects that we funded in the past, and we issue debt for it. So as you go through your budget, there's sections in there called GO, or general obligation. So we anticipate issuing debt, I think it's $11.7 million in 2024. So that means when we start paying that debt, it counts against our debt service in future years. So when you look at the expenditures broken out between this year and the previous year, it kind of looks at it, we spent 17% of the budget on transportation in '23, and in 2024, we anticipate spending about 13%. So this number is not the $360 million. We looked at that smaller pie of $155 million. That's how this is broken out.
Very good. Questions?
So any questions on the numbers that we discussed?
Nope. Very good. Transportation.
So transportation. We'll get these out now. Transportation. Let's start out with streets. East Exchange. So East Exchange is a project that we've been working on for a couple of years. It's been approved by council on April of 2022. It was in various phases of design. Construction actually began in 2023. This was some of the underground work. We are looking at interconnected signals, looking at bike lanes, parking, improving the pedestrian experience as they're crossing the street, not just the pedestrian, but also it's part of the University of Akron grid, so we were looking at making improvements there. Like I said, it is currently under construction. We anticipate construction being completed in fall or winter of 2024. Mall Avenue from South Hawkins to Schneider Park was obviously previously approved by council. We are in the midst of completing that. These are just closeout charges, and we anticipate completion of that project in spring of 2024. North Main Street, complete streets, we are looking at design. This would be from the Y Bridge to the city of Cuyahoga Falls. It would include a road diet with bike lanes, signal improvements, resurfacing sidewalk parking, streetscape and amenities. We have applied for federal funds and some state funds. We are going to pursue state OPWC in 2024, and we're anticipating construction to begin in 2025. This is one project that will be coming back to council once the design is complete, and we're looking to bid that out. Riverview resurfacing, this is for closeout charges. This was resurfacing work that was done to improve the driving surface. The work has been completed. These closeout charges is just working with the contractor to make final payments on that.
There's no assessments on there?
Yes, there are assessments on there.
Okay, I don't see them on the actual budget.
So the final project in streets is South Main Street, Promenade, Phase 3. We do have Phase 1 and 2 are complete. So this is looking for work to be done from Cedar or DeBarges. We are in the design phases this year, and we're hoping that construction will begin in 2025 as we pursue other funding sources for this project as well.
Okay, on page 1, though, there's no special assessments noted on the actual capital budget referencing the Riverview.
In
so
my notes, I did,
you can
maybe
get
it was
back.
last year's, it was special
Okay.
assessments. We will revisit that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions on page 1? Okay, good.
So let's move on to bridges. We have the Bowery Street Bridge over the canal. This is a partial deck replacement. The design is complete. We anticipate to begin in spring of 2024, and construction, I think it's to bid in 2024, and construction would begin in October of 2024, and then completed in 2026. We're also, last year, I believe it was last year, we instituted a couple of new line items in the capital budget regarding bridges. We are allocating $150,000 for bridge inspection and SNBI program. So SNBI is the U.S. Department of Transportation Specification for National Bridge Inventory. We are looking to conduct inspections on our bridges on an annual basis to see what we need to do, mainly to protect them and also to see if there's any safety concerns. So then that would bring us to our second line item, which is the bridge maintenance program at $150,000. So as we're doing those inspections, if there's general repairs, we will take care of those and potentially expand the life of those bridges. And then eventually, we have a number of other bridge programs. They get to a certain point, and then we have to do replacement. But we do have those two new line items for inspections of our bridges. The Goodyear Boulevard Bridge over the railroad is closeout charges. This was total replacement of the Goodyear Bridge. Construction was completed in 2023. For the Kent Street Bridge, we're looking at the replacement of the bridge deck over the Little Cuyahoga. Design will take place in 2024, and bidding and construction we are anticipating taking place in 2025. So this is another one of these. We're looking at design dollars here, and then once we actually get to the bidding phase, it will come back to City Council for final approval. The South Main Street over the CSX is $200,000. This is another design project to determine what repairs are needed for that bridge. This is between East Miller and Steiner. We are still looking at other funding partners, and the construction, we're anticipating construction to begin in 2026, 2027.
Any questions? Nope. Very good.
Okay.
Residential.
So residential streets, Bellawood Drive improvements. This is a carryover from 2023. Council actually approved this in May of 2023. We're anticipating about $700,000. This would be to replace deteriorated concrete pavement with asphalt pavement and concrete and gutter work. We're anticipating on bidding this out in the first quarter of 2024, with construction to begin shortly thereafter that. The Castle Boulevard Rail Crossing, this is about $127,000. Ongoing concerns with the rail crossing at that intersection. We're looking to install traffic signals. We are seeking other funding sources, and we're also looking at designing that in 2024, anticipating construction in 2025. Traffic calming devices. We've heard loud and clear from a number of folks, and the mayor has given us strict instructions to proceed with this, exploring different traffic interventions. This budget line item was increased from $200,000 that was passed by Planning Commission in December. It was increased to $500,000.
Go ahead.
The last item here is the Summit Lake infrastructure. So we are anticipating partnering with the Housing Authority for the reconstruction of the Summit Lake apartments. We are going to have to design new roads for some of that work. So this will be the first step in that process, looking at design work along Crozier Street for one of their buildings.
Helen, if I could, the Castle Boulevard crossing, does that include like a traffic calming? Is that what the arm would do? Can anyone, and if not, if you don't know off the top of your head, you can get back to me. But I know on the west side, we've been working for some time on traffic calming so that they don't have to.
I know it's.
Hi, Jeff. This is Christine Jonke from engineering.
Hi,
Castle
Christine.
Boulevard. The main goal, of course, is to make sure cars are not on the railroad tracks there. Stopping on the tracks, of course, is a huge safety issue. We've got a lot of young drivers who aren't necessarily experienced. But the fact of the matter, one of the side effects of putting in a signal here may be traffic calming.
There's a number of areas on the west side, and I'm sure council representative, both Ward 8 past and present would testify that the noise that the whistles make is a bit much, and the times of day that it comes through is a bit much as well. So I would submit any time that we have these crossings that needs to be at the forefront. So perhaps at that level there, we could work on that as well. Christine, thank you very much for that update, though. Very good.
You're welcome.
Thanks. So, yes, Mr. Hardy?
So lots to be excited about on this slide. Bellawood, thank you. But larger question about wanting to make sure the public is clear what we mean when we say we're going to be doing concrete replacement. So wanting to give the administration just an opportunity to talk about that. It's patch and match is my understanding. And another question, which is great, awesome. Two questions. Wiltshire, I don't see it named here, but I know Wiltshire was something that Mayor Malik worked on really hard when he was there, and just wanting to make sure that's still going to happen. And then second is, when can we get out of the business of concrete streets? Because I know I'm not the only city council person dealing with them.
Mr. Little?
So to answer a couple questions, yes, Wilkshire is going to be a patch and match. It's already been bid and awarded. It's part of the 23 program that did not get completed. Trimore is the contractor. It's a small company. They will start Wilkshire, Stoner, Sorick, Cortland, Polson. They've done a couple of these, Rocky Hollow, Rocky Wood, and Shady Ledge. So basically, they will go in and they will excavate all the bad slabs or the ones that are the worst and pour new concrete to match. So we're looking at a project, because Wilkshire's not totally failed. If the street is totally failed, then it would be beyond repair. We would not do it. So obviously, everybody knows that Wilkshire's primary route for the marathon. We've been hearing about it for years. So that will start probably in March. And then we have added more money into the concrete streets. So we are going to look at some other things throughout the city, the worst that are not totally failed, and we're going to rehab those too. So that next phase will be bid in the spring, or that contract could start early summer.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
And Chris, if I could just add on to that, a lot of locations when the concrete streets are completely failing, we are going back with asphalt. A good example of that is South Main Street Phase 3, currently a concrete street, currently beyond any kind of patching project. We're going back with asphalt.
Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. So as Helen mentioned, the South Main from Cedar to Barges, we're looking at a project where we would go in and we wouldn't disturb the curb or the 12 inches away from the curb. We call that the gutter plate. That's all integral to when they poured the road. So we will saw cut that all the way down to the whole length of and we will hog that out, excavate all, and go back with asphalt.
It's a pretty rough area. Very good. Cool. Resurfacing program, or anyone else? Yes, Ms. Davis?
Just want to say I appreciate hearing Stoner on that list.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Very good.
So then, moving on to the resurfacing program, we are looking at approximately $3.9 million in resurfacing, looking at arterial and collector streets, micro resurfacing, partial depth, and a big focus this year is also preventive maintenance. We've invested a lot of money in our streets over the past 5 or 6 years, so we want to make sure we protect those and do take up preventive maintenance measures to make sure that we prolong that resurfacing. We are also right-sizing the program, so we are catching up to from what was carried over from 2023. And then I believe it's 40 or 50 miles and another 20 miles in 2024. So we won't have that issue where folks get a notification, your street's going to get resurfaced, and then nothing happens. It's going to get resurfaced this year, we'll have caught up, and then this resurfacing will actually take place in that given year.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Little?
Just to add to that, during COVID, we did pull back because we didn't know how our budget was going to affect. Our tax collections were better than we thought, so we did have extra money. Not extra money, but we weren't that far off. We had no extra money, but the program, we did cut it down. We were catching up the last few years, and we looked at this year's program, and we thought, let's right-size it. So you're going to see probably as much or more than you've seen in every other year, because 50 miles are carried over from last year, and a lot of that was due to ARPA money. We got that influx for lead services and water mains, and it wouldn't be very responsible for us to pave a road and then come back a year later and dig it up and do the lead services. So they got pushed to this year, so that's already been awarded under contract. You're going to see the contractor out there, weather permitting, in March, April at worst, paving those 50 miles. Plus, we have 10 more miles that were alternates last year that had already been through the process. The property owner's been noticed, so that makes it 60. And then we are still going to do another 10 miles this year that the homeowners or the residents or businesses will get noticed, hopefully April, and then that will carry on. So it'll be a total of 70 miles.
You say it's some kind of record or something?
Actually, a few years ago, we did close to 100.
Yeah.
And as you'll see later on, when we do the other couple little projects like Miller Road's almost a mile, and the whole corridor of East Market, which is about 3.5 miles. Okay. So that total is going to be pushing 75 miles.
Nice. Very good. That's great news.
So moving on to the bicycle network, several years ago, we did a Copenhagenized plan and kind of looked at where would it make sense to include bike lanes. So in some of the streets where we go back and resurface it, if it warrants and if it makes sense and if it's safe, then we do paint some bike lanes in there as well. We have about $25,000 budgeted for that. The East Market Street resurfacing program, we're looking at about $3.3 million. This will be from on East Market from High Street to I-76. This is primarily funded by the state, but we do have some commitments to that as well. I think that is going to bid in first quarter of 2024, and to begin in the summer of 2024 as well.
East Market?
East Market, correct. Miller Road resurfacing is another item that was passed by City Council in 2023. It is a carryover. It is looking at resurfacing for Miller Road between Ridgewood and Market. It is going to be bid in the first quarter of 2021, and construction will begin in the summer of 2024. I'm sorry, first quarter of 2024 and construction of 2024 as well. The concrete street repair program, this is actually a new item that we've had in for a couple of years now. We do recognize that our concrete streets need some help. So we have reached out to the state. It is a very high-scoring OPWC application. So we were awarded funds in 2023, and we're anticipating applying for and awarded funds in 2024 as well. Mm-hmm. This is based on engineering, and they go out and they study all the streets and the blocks, and then repairs are made where necessary regarding the concrete street program. Any questions on this?
Very good. Mr. Hardy?
Just real quick on Miller, the striping at the light there at that intersection right off the highway is completely gone. And I'm just wondering, it's a dicey intersection. People fly off that highway exit and go right up Miller. Will the striping on Ridgewood get addressed as part of that project, or is that a separate issue we need to look at? See, when you come up on Ridgewood to stop at the intersection there at Miller and Ridgewood, there's no striping whatsoever, and it's hard to know where you should stop. And I had a constituent reach out about it.
Mr. Leto?
We'll look at that immediately and take, as soon as the weather breaks, we'll get that restriped.
Oh, and Chris, just to add on to that, striping is included in the Miller Road project, and it'll be a little bit heavier dutier than what our folks normally do.
Thank you.
So next section is a sidewalk program, starting off with the Akron Peninsula Multi-Road Trail. This is looking at we've been working on this a couple of years now, a multi-use trail, like I said, along Akron Peninsula. We're still in the design phases of this, $50,000. We are looking for other funding sources. We'll be looking to the state to help fund this as well. So we'll look at those opportunities and then looking at construction in future years. We've also looked at AMAT's funding as well. Okay. Yes, sir. Oh, no. Okay. The city sidewalk program. This is one we're thrilled to announce that we have increased that to $1 million. This will be an opportunity to help us catch up. We've been behind a couple of years, but this is an increase from previous years. So we're excited about that. The Portage Trail extension has been in the budget for a couple of years as well. We anticipate that the design will be completed and looking at construction, I believe it's this year. Chris, do you know of Christine? Yeah.
Christine, why don't you give a brief overview?
I'm sorry, which project are we talking about?
Portage Trail extension down from Waterford down to the corner.
Yes. We've got design done for that. That is a sidewalk project that goes from the condos and apartments there at the top of the hill down into the valley to get pedestrians safely up and down that hill. Design is done. We've got an agreement with Cuyahoga Falls, and we want to build that sidewalk this year. I don't know about funding, what we can get for that. We were not awarded federal funds, but maybe we can go after some state funds.
What's the budget then?
Geo.
It's Geo.
Mostly Geo.
City of Cuyahoga Falls and assessments.
But what's the cost?
Approximately that there is the 225
Okay.
is the approximate construction cost.
So it's 225,000 total.
Thank you.
And the way we designed it, there's no land acquisition, because when we started this, we thought, are we going to have to deal with land acquisition? But we're not going to have to deal with, the way it's designed, we're not going to have to deal with land acquisition, which is a plus.
But we're still going to pursue some other outside funding because of the
Yes.
geo's so high.
Yes.
Fair. Very good. Thank you.
So a couple more in the sidewalk program, the South Portage Path sidewalk, looking for the design and construction of the sidewalk on the west side of South Portage Path, looking at $40,000 this year, and then again, this one will be coming back to you next year as well. Safe Streets for All is a new federal program, looking at intersections or sidewalks where there's a higher roadway death and injuries. There's a group of us looking at design work for this and getting ready to apply for federal funding for this program. So this is just ongoing design work initially to help prepare for that application. And the final one is this is Safe Routes to School. It's to help update our school travel plan. So in order to apply for Safe Routes to School, we have to have a travel plan in place. Once that plan is completed, that will then allow us to apply for funding to improve the pedestrian process as kids are walking to school, making sure that they have a safe
Route.
path to school, and hopefully preventing any injuries. So we're hoping to update that plan this year, and then we're also hoping to actually apply for funding this year as well.
Very good.
Any questions on the sidewalk program?
Ms. Boyes?
Thank you. I did have a question on the safe routes to school. If you were applying for a particular project, when do you foresee funds actually coming in for something like that?
Christine, can you answer that question?
Sure. Usually that's a very quick turnaround. For instance, I think applications are due this year in February. So if we were awarded those, we would be able to put together some plans and actually construct them next year. Yeah, just remember that we're applying for design/construction. So we might have a plan. We might know what we want to do, but we still have to put in a little bit of time to put together construction documents. So, I mean, I guess the short answer is if we get it in 24, we can build it in 25.
Thank you.
Eric Garrett?
Thank you, Chairman. The citywide sidewalk repair, have the sidewalks already been identified, or what's the plan there for the $1 million?
Mr. Ludlow?
Yes, the way the sidewalk program works, our residents put in a request. So we will send them out a form. They fill it out, they send it back. Then we send an inspector out and they look at the sidewalks that need repaired, whether it's the driveway apron or the sidewalks. One thing that you can help us with at your ward meetings, when a resident calls in and says, can I get a request? They send it in, we go through the process. A lot of times they'll request it and they think, well, then I'm good. and they never send it in. And then we get a call a year later and it says, I did ask to get the sidewalks done. Well, you never sent the request in. So it would help just a little bit more communication, and then we send them out an estimate what it's going to be. And if the damage is caused by a street tree, then there is no charge for the slab in front of the street tree or two. But if it's not caused by a street tree, then there's assessment. And it's very cheap to have it done, but we have a tremendous number of requests, so this extra money will let us catch up to the point of all requests previous to 2022 and back will all get fulfilled. And then we will move into the 23 request. We usually are going 2 to 3 years in the rears. That's how many requests we get. So this extra funding is going to help us get closer to catching up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Amobian?
Mr. Ludlow, is there any way for someone in your department or wherever the requests will go, can that be sent out to the ward individuals? Because you have so many people that are just not good with doing paperwork. I'm just wondering if it goes to the council member, maybe the council person can get someone to work with them to do the paperwork.
Sure, we can do that.
Would that be helpful? At least we can follow up on the things that people are wanting to do.
Rather hear from a ward person. Thank you. Well,
I'll be more than willing to help in any ward.
yeah, Mr.
if you want some assistance.
Lombardo?
Thank you, Mr. Luddle. In the past, when the sidewalk program, fell behind, was it a matter of budget constraints or manpower?
Well, it was both.
Both?
Okay. So with this new money, we hope to put out a couple smaller contracts, and we did that a few years ago, and we pretty much hit a home run with a small contractor, minority contractor in Firestone Park, and we put out a bid for just under 50, and then we put out another one for 250 and 250, and this contractor was able to get the small one and the one for 250, and then another contractor got the other 250. So that's what we're going to try to do again with this extra money, put out some smaller contracts keep them in, reduce their mobilization. So give them like 2 or 3 streets right in a row where they can go in and hit these. Obviously, when you're ordering concrete, it's, delivery and everything else. So, but a lot of it has in the last couple of years has been getting them done, but the extra funding and the way the workforce is opening up, we think we're going to be pretty successful this year.
Okay, so these are outside contractors and not city crews?
No, they're contractors.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Is that it?
So we'll move on to public facilities. We're going to do Parks and Recreation next week. So public facilities, and Mr. Ashley is going to take over.
One second.
Good afternoon.
One second, please.
Well, I was going to say where it is.
Go ahead.
The public, facilities-
Hold on, he's catching.
it's on slide 32.
Thank
Your
you.
Capital budget on page 7, because I knew you were going to,
Some of us have
first
been
question
waiting.
was going to be asked.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Total budget is $15,822,000. It's comprised of $9 million in local funds, the largest share being general obligation bonds of $4 million. We have $1 million in IT, safety, and street funds. There's $3.7 million in state funding, with $3 million coming from the Ohio Department of Development, and $3 million in federal funds, which nearly is completely from the FAA. The section also contains 8 projects that earmark $3.8 million to address the city's aging parking decks. We have over 6,500 spaces. Actual deck improvements may vary based on engineers' assessment of current condition. So to begin on slide 33.
Okay, thank you.
Akron Center Garage Concrete Repair and Waterproofing. Given ongoing discussions with engineering, we are now recommending delaying this project and relocating these funds to the Cascade Garage Concrete and Structural Repairs line item.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes,
I'm
Mr.
sorry, I
Garrett.
can't keep up. What?
He's on page 7 on the capital budget, and on the slide, it's what number? I don't even.
33.
33, yeah. I think there's you kind of gave a synopsis of everything that you're going to cover, and it threw a couple of us for a loop.
Okay.
So I think we're ready. You okay? Everybody all right? Cool, cool.
Okay. The next 5 projects are at the Akron Executive Airport and are contingent upon FAA and ODOT funding. The first project is Akron Airport panel replacement, $500,000, replacement of concrete panels on various ramps and taxiways. The ODOT funding is secured and construction is moving forward. The Airport General Consulting Services is $75,000. This line item is for services that cover land releases, land leases, and grant submissions. This is an annual placeholder to be used as needed. The airport fuel farm replacement is $100,000. It's replacing 3 underground fuel tanks with above-ground tanks. The existing fuel farm is beyond its useful life, and below-ground tanks of fuel tanks on farms are obsolete. Our budget is for design. We're seeking outside funding to implement the project, which is estimated around $1 million. The airport perimeter fencing is $2.9 million. Installation of 6,000 feet of perimeter fencing per the FAA regulations. This is contingent upon receiving FAA funding. This would be a multi-year project with a total cost of approximately $5.7 million. The new perimeter fencing will reduce wildlife hazards with aircraft and provide better security for the airfield. And the final airport project is the Airport Taxiway P rehabilitation. This is $200,000. 2024 funding is for design. Taxiway P is a 1-mile parallel taxiway to the runway. Total cost is $4.7 million. Funding is FAA 90%, ODOT 5%, and local funds at 5%. Any questions on that slide?
Anyone? Very good.
Moving on to slide 34 is the BF Goodrich Power Plant demolition, $3,392,000. Demolition is underway and scheduled to be completed in the next several months. The site will be left as green space for the current time.
What's the ODOD funding?
Ohio Department of Development.
Thank you.
The Cascade Garage Concrete and Structural Repairs annual line item. This was $400,000, but as previously mentioned, the recommendation is to increase this by $500,000, bringing the new budget to $900,000 for continued column and related repairs. The Cascade deck has 10 levels, approximately 2,000 spaces, is used by Huntington Bank, PNC Bank, Cascade 1 tenants, Main Place tenants, the Bowery Apartments, as well as patrons of Block 3, 4, and the Akron Civic Theater. The Cascade parking deck elevators, $1.978 million. This is modernization of the 2 green and orange elevators. This project was awarded in 2023 and is under construction. The Cascade Valley Scenic Railroad Merriman Valley Train Station is $100,000. This is for design of a train station to boost economic growth within the Merriman Valley Great Street Business District. We purchased 1762 Merriman Road, which is approximately 1 acre, back in 2020. Estimated cost for construction of this train station is estimated at $400,000. Fire Station 12 replacement. This is using income tax 4 funds of $586,000. Construction is scheduled to be completed this summer.
Yes, Mr. Hardy.
Merriman Valley Train Station. My 2 predecessors, including Mayor Malik, have worked really, really hard to get to this point. Feeling on is this design actually going to bid and happen this year, or because it is a carryover?
It is a carryover. We do have a couple of other public facility projects that are going to be funded by CDBG, so it's just going to depend on our CDBG allocation from HUD.
Okay.
And the progress of those other 2 projects.
Okay, so we'll know more once you hear. Okay.
Mr. Ashley?
Okay, slide 35 is the High Market parking deck repairs. It's $100,000, replacement of 3 failing expansion joints. This deck has 595 spaces located at 40 South High Street. Greystone HVAC controls, $120,000. The HVAC system is beyond its useful life, not functioning as designed, and is in need of replacement. Ordinance 50, 2023 of last year was passed in March. MSC HVAC control system replacement, $200,000 to replace HVAC control systems at MSC Building Number 1. This ordinance was 127, 2023, passed in May of last year. Municipal Service Center.
Thank you.
And work is being designed by the Akron Energy Systems.
Very good, thanks.
Final project on this slide is a miscellaneous facility improvements of $200,000. It's a multi-year approach looking at each building's envelope and then interior items such as LED lighting, mechanical, ceiling, HVAC, and flooring.
Okay, good, thank you. Going on to Morley.
The Morley parking deck sprinkler replacement of $75,000. This is replace the fire suppression system. 2024 budget is just for design. The total project cost estimate currently is $600,000. This deck contains 549 spaces. The parking deck is currently not open to the public, but is being used for city services. A municipal building generator replacement, $300,000. This is replace the generator, transfer switch, and look at adding entire building onto a backup system. Generator supplies backup power to all vital computer systems on the 8th floor, the PBX internal phone equipment room in the basement, as well as the emergency operations room. The current backup system is beyond its useful life. Municipal building Liebert HVAC system replacement is $30,000. Replace aging HVAC unit for the PBX phone room. And this is needed to keep air conditioning functioning for critical IT equipment cool, as well as the internal phone system. And the final item on this slide is municipal building fire panel upgrade, $60,000 to replace outdated fire panel with a new model and improved features. The existing panel is 40 years old, and once replaced, it will provide the capability to improve notification systems through strobe lights, loudspeakers, etc. for building evacuations. The next slide, we're on the Municipal Service Center training and locker room restrooms, $120,000. These are upgrades. The work would be done in-house by building maintenance to keep our costs down. Building maintenance recently renovated the Balch Street locker rooms using this approach. Municipal Service Center improvements, Public Works, $250,000. It's an annual program to address the needs of triplet buildings 1, 2, 3, and 5. The Municipal Service Center fire alarm and sprinklers. This is another safety and street funded project. $430,000. Design and installation of fire suppression for building 1, 1A, and 1B garages, as well as buildings 2 and 3. This project was bid last October for $427,000. The parking deck improvements, $100,000. This is the annual program to modernize city-owned parking decks. Based on the parking deck study that Walker did back in 2020, it includes waterproofing, sealing, joint repairs, lighting repairs, and facade repairs. And the final item on this slide is the parking deck lighting upgrades, $100,000. The upgrade of existing deck lighting to LED, and they're currently focusing on Cascade parking deck. They're finishing phase 6 and they'll be moving on to phase 7. Move on. Okay, our final slide, parking deck maintenance program, $500,000, rehabilitation of downtown parking decks to remediate safety concerns. This line item provides flexibility where funds should be addressed. The salt storage rehabilitation of $520,000. This will rehabilitate the existing salt storage facilities located at the Municipal Service Center, Westside Depot, Parks Maintenance Storage Garage. Now, the project will encapsulate existing salt domes with a rubberized roof. This process was recently done at the Evans Avenue structure, And the slide shows the Municipal Service Center concrete salt dome that has continually cracking in it now. Stubbs Elevator Modernization, Employer and Prisoner. This is $1.8 million. The project has been a line item for prior years. The project design has been completed. Currently, 1 of 3 employee elevators are optional. The contacts on elevator doors 1 and 2 were repaired in 2022, and the cable on elevator 2 was currently being repaired. Public access is no longer at this building. It's currently at Ocasek. And elevator 3 is currently inoperable, which is, they put the trash can in front of it. That's how sad that looks. The West Side Depot roof HVAC replacement of $30,000. This will replace a filling rooftop HVAC unit for the office building and locker rooms. The offices at the West Side Depot frequently have no heat, and the breakers are frequently needing to be reset.
Mr. Ashley, what's the ASC funding for the Stubbs elevator? What's that?
That's the Akron Safety Fund Reserve for the replacement of the Akron Safety Center Fund Reserve for the replacement of the Stubbs building.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Yes, I have one. What is the GO of the funding source? GO?
That's the general obligation bonds that we issue for projects.
That's debt. We issue debt at the end of every year. We issue debt to help pay for some of these projects. So that's one of the items we discussed this year. Our debt projection is $11.7 million, which is the lowest it's been since 2018.
That's good. Yes, Mayor Malik?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to add on Stubbs, as we go forward and try to decide what to do with the future of the police station, this will impact this line item. So if we decide to go with a different building, this line item will shift dramatically. If it's a rehab of the current facility, then this line item will probably stay in. So that's why you're seeing it there, but just know that it might change.
Placeholder. Gotcha. Thank you. Mr. Ashley?
So we're going to move on to the miscellaneous section of the budget, and Ms. Woodall is going to take over for that.
So the miscellaneous section, the total there is just under $57 million. And the first line item there makes up a very large chunk of it, the debt service, which, again, this is payment on prior year's GO projects. Moving on, downtown beautification, $20,000 of income tax for, this is an annual line item for downtown beautification at various areas in the downtown. Downtown wayfinding, $50,000 of GO for signage for downtown wayfinding. Equipment replacement is made up of, it's budgeted $5.3 million. It's made up of GO, $900,000 of GO, and that's split evenly between police, fire, and service. And then the income tax for money is split between police, fire, and service also for annual replacement of various vehicles and equipment for those divisions, departments. Expressway lighting, $225,000 to replace city-owned high-pressure sodium lights on US 224, State Route 8, and State Route 59 with new LED lighting.
Any questions on this slide?
Mr. Harding?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. JED bonds. It's pretty, the 1 million feels low, so I wonder, like, did some of the original JED bonds fall off? And if not, like, when does that happen? And that's okay if we need to do it offline to keep us rolling.
Mr. Furr can answer that question. Sorry.
Yes, so that $1 million represents the bonds that we issued for the acquisition of the IBH property in Coventry.
Thank you.
The next item is the fire apparatus replacement. This is issue 4 money, $950,000 to replace fire engine number 13. Fire CAD system, $175,000 for annual maintenance for the fire portion of the CAD system. Fire Combined Communication Center, $140,000 of income tax 4 money. This is for fire share of the funding related to the new Combined Communication Center. Fire Facility Improvement Program, $400,000 of GO, which is an annual program for various repairs and improvements at fire stations, including kitchens, HVAC systems, overhead doors, generators, drive aprons, and parking lots. And this also includes closeout costs for some 2023 projects there.
Questions?
Fire vehicle.
Oh, Mr. Hanna has a question.
That $140,000, I think that's well spent. I was out last week and I took a tour of that facility, and it's worth that $140,000 plus more.
Right.
Thank you.
Fire vehicle refurbishment program. This is also an annual program, $100,000 of GO to refurbish current vehicles in fire and EMS to get more useful life out of them. Fire and EMS miscellaneous safety equipment, another annual program, $285,000 of income tax to purchase miscellaneous equipment for them, including the washers and extractors to clean their gear. Fire management software, hardware renewals, $310,000 of income tax for ongoing support and maintenance of their critical software systems. Fire staffing maintenance, $2 million of income tax for. This is funding assistance to maintain their current staffing levels. Fire structural turnout gear replacement, an annual program at $325,000 of income tax for money to provide replacement of their fire protective clothing equipment.
Looks like a typo. No, I missed it. Go ahead, continue.
Fire station debt service, this is $1,055,000 of income tax for the payment for their debt service of construction of fire stations 2 and 4. And next we have the police miscellaneous. Police academy and training, $515,000 of income tax for continued improvements to the police department training facility and for costs associated with the basic academy and the citizens academy. Akron Safety Center, this is $100,000 of income tax for, which will go into that Akron Safety Center fund that you had just asked about, to set aside for the future of the Stubbs Center, whether it's money to go into that building or a new location. Police body worn cameras annual contract, $375,000 of income tax for, the contract for the cameras, docking equipment, license, and their storage. Police CAD system contract, $350,000 of income tax for, their annual payment for a multi-year contract with Summit County for their CAD system. Police Combined Communication Center, $260,000 of income tax for, and this is police share of for the funding related to the new Combined Communication Center. Police Dan Street Training Bureau facility improvements, $110,000 of income tax for replacement of the HVAC units out there. Police gear and equipment replacement, $110,000 of income tax for to replace specialized SWAT tactical body armor and other gear replacement that is needed. Police management hardware software renewals, $240,000 of income tax for, it's an annual, their support and maintenance payment for critical software, including NetMotion, Gray Shift, and Lepta.
Can I interrupt a quick second?
Yes.
So actually, the numbers for the Police Combined Communication Center and the Fire Communication Center have changed from what we're showing in the PowerPoint presentation. We received different numbers. So when you received your safety and streets flyer,
Yes.
the police share of the Combined Communication Center is $325,000, and the fire share is $175,000.
325 and 175.
Yes,
That's a one-time, or is it
that's an annual.
annual? That's
that will be-
lease and everything, I assume. Is that what that's?
It's like in the middle of, yeah. And I think my computer's dying.
So that's going to be an annual expenditure for APD, AFD of 325 and then 175.
And I don't know if that'll change by year.
Uh-huh. It'll go down, right? Sarcasm, sorry. Have to loosen it up a little bit here. Oh, Mr. Fricker, he'll know the
Yeah,
answer.
so there's a debt schedule. So the county issued bonds to build the facility, which we have a debt schedule. And that debt service stays relatively stable over the years. I think there are some ups and downs throughout the 20 years of the bonds. And then we will pay the actual operating costs for our share of the space out there. So that, we have an initial figure for the first year, and that will just kind of be an ongoing cost. So this year it's roughly $140,000
Okay.
for our share of the space.
And- Okay. Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Excuse me, Chairman, thank you. I noticed that we had the body-worn cameras. Was there also allocation for dash cameras for the police vehicles?
Not this year, I think. Okay, we have Captain,
Mayor?
Thank you, Councilman. So there was an increase in this amount to account for additional body cams, I believe 37 additional body cams for the SWAT team and the SNUD unit, which have not previously had body cams. That's been something we discussed. There is not currently a line item for dash cams. We can discuss that going forward.
Thank you.
Captain Cozy?
I'll just add on the dash cams, those were originally funded through a grant, and they will be for 23 and 24. Beginning in 2025, you'll start to see that on issue form for the dash cams. It's a multi-year contract. The first few years were funded through a grant.
Very good. So we have some,
We do have some.
right.
We do have dash cams in 26 vehicles right now. All our frontline cars have dash cams.
Exactly. Yeah, this council had passed something a few years ago. So Mobian, did you have?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions, and I hope you don't mind me going back just a little bit. And Mr. Little, could you answer this? With regard to the lighting of the expressway, is he here? Oh. Now, is it residential lighting or expressway lighting that's done by the city or the First Energy? Which one is responsible for those?
For the routes that are listed in the budget, Route 8, 224, and 59 are our responsibility.
Okay.
We've always tried to get those designated as a federal highway, and they just are not, so those are our responsibility. So the grant we received in the budget, we're going to upgrade those lights to LED. So basically from the interchange north to the Cuyahoga Falls line and Route 8, and then on 224, that portion from, I believe it's Hillbush, all the way to 77, and then the other portion is 59. So they're commercial lights, expressway lights, they're LED, so we're gonna bid this project soon. We did receive the money. So it's not a very long project. They're basically taking down a head and replacing it with an LED head.
Okay, just a couple more things.
Sure.
There was a comment in there, a line about fire staffing and maintenance. Are we paying for staffing to maintain? What is that about? Because I know this is about capital as opposed to staffing?
So we are allocating $2 million from our safety and streets budget, $2 million for police and $2 million for fire to pay for ongoing staffing costs. We realize that this is a capital budget, but we just, for transparency, we wanted to identify it as part of our, all of our IT4 expenses.
Okay. In terms of police academy and training, did we put funds in this line item to improve the training that, because we've been talking about the training needs of the
We'll
safety
defer to-
forces for, I mean, the police.
Defer to Captain McCosey.
Yeah, the funding in this particular project covers our basic academy and then some of our instructional costs for our ongoing instructors, the folks that are assigned to our training bureau. And so we have to send them to ongoing training and update their training over the course of the year to maintain their certifications. So it covers all that and the hiring costs and all that part of it.
And I don't know exactly what's included in here, but I do know that we have DEI director now. So I'm assuming that she'll be doing, because a lot of the things that we talked about in recent years about the need to improve the training in those areas, particularly culture diversity and interfacing with all kinds of groups of folks. So I was just wondering if that training included improving or increasing in those areas.
I'm sure we'll be having those conversations because we're always looking to increase our training and improve our training.
Okay.
And on the way we can interact and serve the community and connect with them a little closer. So I'm sure that's on a part of the plan.
And again, it could be on the director of DEI's plate, I don't know.
Yes, Councilwoman, I was just going to follow up and say that I know that it was something that was on the radar of the previous Director of DEI, and our current Director of DEI started last Monday, and it is something we'll be looking at there, and I think we'll have more conversation around that when it comes to the operating budget as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Anyone else? Very good. Where are we?
Police Safety Center's bond, $200,000 of income tax for debt service for the initial cost of the police fire CAD. This is the police portion of that.
Thank you.
Police staffing maintenance, this is $2 million of income tax to assist in maintaining the staffing levels for police. Police stubs, workplace improvements and gym relocation, $220,000 of income tax for minor repairs and replacement of office equipment within the Stubbs building. Police taser replacement equipment, $270,000 of income tax for the contract for the latest CEW device technology for tasers for all uniformed officers.
Questions or comments? Okay, very good.
Reservoir Park Water Tower, $50,000 of GO for renovations for the Reservoir Park Water Tower. School flashing lights remote access, $30,000 of income tax to purchase new school flasher controllers that will provide cell phone technology for updating and monitoring the flashers. Street signal support replacement program, $50,000 of income tax for the annual program for signal support replacement. Traffic engineering vehicle and equipment replacement, $250,000 of GO. In 2024, they'll be purchasing a new bucket truck and other various equipment. Traffic miscellaneous, $100,000 of GO to replace traffic-related devices and signals throughout the city.
Questions? Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. The purchase school flashing lights remote access. It says to purchase new school flasher controllers that provide cell phone technology for the purpose of updating and monitoring flasher functionality. What exactly, that's not our cell phones, that's maybe the city's monitoring that or turning it on or off by.
When there's a snow day,
cell phone.
when there's a snow day, those flashers don't go on and off.
Okay. So we have the technology with
We're
our
working
cell phones
on,
to,
we're working on implementing that technology.
okay.
Mr. Lotto?
That is correct. So if there's a day off school, instead of sending a person out there, we can have a remote dial-in access, and we can adjust the timing on that light.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me.
The next four items are in regards to trees. The tree canopy, city nursery, $250,000 of income tax. Money for materials to start up, the startup of the tree growing operation at 2331 Thies Road. Land clearing and preparation will be performed with city in-house.
Okay.
Tree planting, $750,000, annual replacement of trees throughout the city located in the right-of-ways, parks, or other city-owned lands to increase our canopy coverage. Tree removal citywide, $275,000, an annual program to remove dead and diseased or dying trees throughout the city. And tree trimming citywide, $275,000, an annual program to trim the trees located throughout the city in the right-of-ways, parks, to improve tree structure and health, and clear site obstructions from street signs and to clear from street lights.
Questions, comments? It was Mr. Hannah. Did you have a question?
On the tree planting, who's responsible for choosing where these trees will be planted? Because I live on a street, and that street has not had a tree on it in over 30 years or more.
Uh-oh, Mr. Luttle.
So that's a very good question, sir. With this tree planting this year, we're going to plant 2,200 trees and approximately 220 in each ward. So residents will start getting notified in March. Now that we do have a tree commission, once they get their notices, believe it or not, some people do not want a tree, and there's various reasons for that. But they will have to fill out an objection form. So we are looking to identify a lot of trees in the Middlebury neighborhood this year. So with our tree planting, we are going to, like I said, 220 per ward. Our goal, you know, right now we have about 34% coverage in the city, and we want to get up to 40%. So if you have a specific street, send it to us and we'll look at it. But our arborist is going through the whole city with GIS. We have a new program now, Tree Keeper, where he can look, or we can look and see where all this coverage is and identify what streets are in most need, and we're going to hit those first. With this nursery and the grant we received, it's not really referenced here, but we did receive a grant of $1 million, and we are going to Tice Road. We're going to install a nursery on that land, and what we're going to do is we are going to start growing our own street trees. So there's going to be two different programs. One, we are actually going to take what they call a whip. It's just about a 12-inch sapling, and we're going to be planting those. And then the other ones are going to be seedlings, and we hope to increase our tree canopy, or our goal is to produce 1,500 street trees and then 3,500 trees, seedlings for the watershed. But the nice thing about this grant is it's going to be a workforce development. So we're working with the Urban League, and we're working with Truly Reaching You. It's going to be a re-entry program for people that are maybe just come out of prison. And then it's going to be an 8-week program that we are going to train them, and not only in the whole, it's tree trimming, it's how to maintain them, and they're going to get a certificate after that 8 weeks. And we're hoping whether we hire them or they can go out to a company. So we're pretty excited about this, and we'll bring more to this program as it develops. but we hope to start this year. And like I said, that Tice Road property is going to work out perfect for us for doing this. So that's kind of a long answer to like how I get a street tree, but I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I just hope that you remember South Street.
Mr. Lombardo?
Send it to me, please.
Thank you. As far as tree removal and tree trimming goes, the 275,000, would you happen to know if that's the same or increased or decreased from last year? And you could let me know if you don't have that.
We'll have, I believe it's the same, but we'll reach out to
I
you.
think it's the same, yes.
Okay.
Yes, going to ask about the grant, but thank you for filling us in on that. Very helpful, thank you. Any further questions?
It's the same dollar amount.
It's the same?
It's same from
Would
2023.
you happen to know the actual cost that, we budgeted?
We can look that up. That we'll have to get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Housing and Community Services. So again, a reminder that these are federal funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. These are all just placeholders. I think we're in the ballpark, but it will all depend on when Congress passes the budget and we get our allocations from HUD. So what the first line item here is acquisition, relocation, and clearance. We're looking at budgeting approximately $100,000. This is in some circumstances, if there are certain developments that might need us to acquire a property and perhaps tear it down so we can build other properties, or for other reasons, we might have to acquire something. These are just, this is just a placeholder in case that happens. We have not done much acquisition in previous years, but the reason we keep it in here is if we don't identify to HUD that we are looking at acquisition, relocation, and clearance, and something comes up, then we can't do that for that year. We have to do it the following year. Chodo CDC housing, we're budgeting approximately $925,000. This could be matching funds for nonprofit organizations to either build new housing in Akron, or perhaps if they're interested in some type of rehabilitation program. But these funds are restricted to housing projects only for this particular line item. We'll get to CDC's operating support in a second, in a different line item. The demolition program, we have funded, a CDBG-funded demolition program for 20, 30 years. It's a waiver demolition program. So if there are instances in your neighborhoods where a house is beyond repair and it's been condemned by our Neighborhood Services Division and we need to tear it down, the homeowner can sign a waiver and we can tear that down for free for the homeowner to eliminate blight in a particular neighborhood. So we're looking at perhaps $400,000 in 2024. We're partnering with Habitat for Humanity to build 16 houses for us on Blinn Street. I believe they presented to City Council in November of 2023. They are, I think 6 of them have already sold. So they're looking to start construction shortly. And so this is a line item regarding our partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Homeless shelters, we're anticipating on receiving, this is actually 2 line items. We're anticipating receiving about $535,000 that is strictly reserved for emergency shelters and rental assistance for the homeless. There's also, it's called HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. We are required by HUD to have a homeless tracking system, so these funds help pay United Way to run the HMIS system for us. Minor home repair is a partnership with Rebuilding Together. This is for repairs that are $5,000 or less, geared toward low-income elderly homeowners or disabled homeowners to do small repairs. Before it was a roof, but it might not be roofs anymore because they're probably more than $5,000. But if they need issues, if they have issues with furnaces, if they have issues with their gutters and downspouts or windows, they can reach out to Rebuilding Together to help them make those minor repairs. Any questions on this slide?
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes, same as far as the demolition goes. Again, same is increased or decreased from last year?
I believe this is the same.
Okay.
But
And
again,
so-
this is a placeholder. We don't know what it'll look like.
Right.
Okay.
So I get those demolition reports. It seems like houses seem to be demolished for $7,000 to $8,000 each, meaning that would take care of 50 to 60 houses a year.
Approximately. There's also asbestos assessment, abatement that we need to do first before we demolish it. So that is also included in this $400,000.
gonna say.
Perhaps it could even be less.
So if you're just, those figures that I mentioned, it would seem, like one house a week for the year. But I think we do more than that. So I was just wondering, is there any other monies that come into play? Because I think we do a good job with demolishing houses. Of course, we can, we all council people have a lot of houses in our areas that would like to see come down, but, either the money's just not there or one situation or another. So I was just wondering, is this program kind of, what do I want to say, on track with their scheduled houses to be demolished, or are they behind because of budget constraints?
Mr. Fricker?
Yeah, so keep in mind, there are two sources of money that we use for demolitions. One is the CD funds that you're seeing here, and the other are assessed demolitions, and those are the ones that are ordered by the Housing Appeals Board for demolition. So those are assessed to the property owner when they are raised, and then there's also these CD funds. So there's kind of two separate funding sources for demolitions.
Okay, and so that's probably answers my question, because I know you do more than one a week, so the assessment takes care of the other people. You were mentioning that this is the one with, when they sign a waiver.
Correct. They're also, I think they probably have at least a couple hundred on that list right now.
Oh, yeah.
I can reach out and confirm and get a number for you.
I think Dwayne already sent me a
Yeah, okay.
schedule.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just to go back to the tree trimming, last year, tree trimming and tree removal were one line item, and we were able to put those in separate line items, so we actually doubled it this year. So there's about 200 trees that are dead or diseased we didn't get to. So this new budget, having a separate for trimming and a separate for removal, is going to help tremendously. So we're going to get caught up, and then we're going to try to stay on track where we don't get behind anymore.
Right. I know, can't even find it anymore, but there was, the line item said something about our parks where you do the trimming, but this budget is also for, the dead trees that
If they're dead, we're going to remove them. If they need
could
trim,
be dangerous to the
all
community.
all the site clearance we do. So before resurfacings go out, we trim all those trees so the truck doesn't knock all that into the truck. And then site clearance means around stop signs,
Yes.
around stop. That's going to be in here too.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Garrett?
Thank you, Chairman. So as it relates to the rebuilding together, you mentioned that, and that was for elderly. How would individuals reach out to that company or organization? Do we have numbers for
I
them?
don't have the number with me, but I can send it to you.
Okay, and then also, I wasn't able to locate in the local, state, or federal, the housing, the $925,000 CHDO.
So that is not a funding source. Those are references to HUD speak, the Community Housing Development Organizations.
Okay.
You have to meet certain criteria to become a CHODO, and HUD has specified what that criteria is. I can send that list to you.
Okay, thank
So
you.
there's a difference between a nonprofit, a housing nonprofit versus a housing CHODO nonprofit, but I can send that to council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any correspondence, if we can go through the...
Absolutely.
Mr. Hardy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Homeless shelters, same question as Councilman Lombardo. Is that more or less than we have in previous years? And knowing that I'm jumping ahead with the tiny home experiment, which I'm very excited about, that may impact the question as well.
The CHODO, the homeless shelter, the emergency shelters has been pretty steady in the past couple of years. Where we're going to see a transition, in 2021, HUD issued what they called ESG and CDBG COVID dollars. And ESG COVID dollars was $3 million. That has been spent down. So now there's a gap of 3 million out there, and we, for rental assistance and those type of activities. But the traditional ESG dollars has been pretty steady at about 530,000.
Okay, very good. Linda Mobian?
We send some funds to United Way. And what pot of money is that? I always get confused as to what they are responsible for versus these other organizations.
So there's for rental assistance, for rapid rehousing, which means that if I am in a homeless shelter right now and I need to get placed in an apartment, that is called rapid rehousing. So they provide vouchers for up to 12 months based on recertification. So there's rapid rehousing dollars, and then there's also homeless prevention dollars. So if I am living in my own apartment and I have an eviction notice, a 3-day eviction or a court notice, I can then go to United Way and ask for homeless prevention dollars to prevent me from entering the homeless system. Now, HUD is not a fan of homeless prevention dollars. They fund more rapid rehousing dollars. So that's the two differences. So currently, United Way receives 3 sources of funding for homeless prevention and/or rapid rehousing. One is through the state called the Homeless Crisis Response Program, which is about they might have bumped it up, maybe $500,000. That's a 2-year grant. This is the first year that the city of Akron did not apply for those funds. So in the past, we applied for those funds and we contracted out with United Way. For 24 and 25, the Continuum of Care applied for those funds, and they're going to be issuing an RFP. So that's one pot of money for homeless prevention that United Way received in the past. We also fund them about $200,000 of home dollars, and of the 530 we talked about for emergency solutions emergency ESG dollars, per HUD guidelines, whatever our ESG allocation was 2010, so let's just say it's $250,000. That $250,000 is frozen to assist with our emergency shelters and our transitional shelters. Anything over $250,000 has to go for some type of rapid rehousing program. So we fund United Way with that funding source as well to provide rental assistance for those. So United Way gets 3 funding sources right now. Does that answer your question?
I think it did. It just said we have so many
Yes.
pots of money
Yes.
for different programs. And if I'm confused, I know the public has to be confused because I've been doing this 30-some years. Let me ask you this. Why did we go to United Way? I don't understand why I know it used to be through the other program.
Infoline.
Infoline.
We used to Infoline, and so Infoline merged with United Way.
Right.
That means all the data, all of the case management went with that. As, to muddy the waters even more, as the continuum of care evolves and funding becomes more available through the continuum of care, we are having smaller nonprofits like Harmony House accessing rapid rehousing dollars. I think Harmony House is accessing that, and the Battered Women's Shelter is now accessing the rapid rehousing dollars as well. So it is going to be a transition if we, but right now United Way is applying for it, and they're the main entity where folks go to get rental assistance. The other thing that United Way is also, they're the key for our centralized intake process. So folks, when I'm homeless, I don't have to call Access, and I don't have to call all of these other shelters to find housing. With centralized intake, I call 311 or whatever the phone, or 211 or whatever the phone number is, and they tell me, there's 3 beds available at Access, there's housing here, there's housing there. So that makes it a more seamless process, and in a way, it makes sense for then United Way to work with those rapid rehousing dollars because they've already placed those folks, and they have their records and their case management files on record.
Okay.
I could say so much more, but we'll just.
I'm
leave it
sure.
at that.
The other program I'd like for you to address, and I won't take much time, Mr. Chair, is the home repair program. Is this the one with the ARPA dollars, or this is a
This is different. This is an ongoing relationship that we've had with Rebuilding Together to do those minor home repairs for us under $5,000. But this is not related to ARPA at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Further questions?
Okay. Almost done. Public facilities improvements. So this is a line item of approximately $500,000 of CD dollars. And what we've been doing with this for the past couple of years is we funded the Joy Park splash pad. We funded the Patterson Park splash pad. And in 2024, we are looking at funding a splash pad at Cascade Village. So that's that line item there. Community gardens, we all know this is a partnership with Let's Grow Akron. I think we all love this program. 15 years ago, we started to run our own community garden program where residents can lease a plot of 10 by 10 or 10 by 20. But it just got too complicated, and Let's Grow Akron came forward and is managing that program for us, so we pay them $50,000 to do that. And I think there's 10 or 11 currently. Community services. This is called community services, but I would refer to it more as a public services program. Right now, our priorities are infant mortality, public safety, and the judicial system, financial empowerment centers, and information and referrals. We're looking at budgeting approximately $540,000 of CD dollars for that. Fair housing. Relationship with Fair Housing Contact Service. Per HUD guidelines, we are required to have fair housing programs in place. So this is an ongoing relationship with Fair Housing. Tiny homes is a new line item that we just added. We're still looking at what this will look like. It's a pilot program. I will just say more information will come later. Hopefully, when HUD releases the dollars in the next couple of months, we'll have more information at that time. Neighborhood revitalization and sustainability. This is $6 million of CD and ARPA dollars. So I believe late last year, the Rehabilitation Division came to council. They were awarded $1.8 million of state money for housing rehabilitation. That does require a match. So we're using CDBG dollars to match that those state funds. I believe they're going to do 50 houses in the next year or two. We have to identify we have to identify them by June of 2024. The rest of the dollars we're looking at is ARPA funded, our Akron Home Repair Program. Okay.
Thank you. The Akron Home Repair Program, tell me a little bit about that.
So that's going to be a transition right now. It was ARPA funded. We were looking at up to $25,000 per homeowner. We contracted with G. Stevens to do the work for us while we were implementing and completing our lead grant. That is now ended, so we are in a transition period right now. I'm not sure what it's going to look like.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms.
Samobian?
So you're saying the contract with G. Stevens has ended?
He needs to finish up a couple of houses, maybe a couple 50. So we're extending that through April 30th of 2024.
So are we going to get a final report or something? Because the last report we had, presentation from them, they had completed around, 73 homes or something? I don't know where they are today, but the numbers were not terribly high, and he explained a lot of that. And then I made an appointment, because he asked us to go on a tour, and for some reason my appointment was rescheduled, but they never, or planned to reschedule, but we never had it. So when is the actual official ending of that contract?
Like I said, it is getting amended for him to finish up, and I think it's April 30th is when his contract will end. So once that is complete, we can come back.
And do we have actual deliverables that we were expecting? Because I think we paid him, what, $1 million for the contract, and then $25,000 per home? Was it something like that?
It is $25,000 per home. I am not familiar with this. I'm not familiar with the specifics of the contract.
Well, please, if someone could provide that information, it'll be extremely helpful to know, and how many homes have been completed. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't know it was ending, because it's one of those things that we've been talking about for a long time, particularly with the ARPA dollars, being obligated by this year, end of this year, spent by 26, and we all knew that. We were trying to project something like 800 homes or something crazy, but I'm assuming, just like anything else, once you get into the details of the work, the numbers were substantially changed. So,
We'll get back to you on that one.
thank you.
Any other questions with this screen? Oh, that was the last one. Oh, we have economic development, and Mr. Volman and/or Mr. Becker.
And also, Councilwoman Amobi, and I can update a little bit. They will have finished 203 houses by April 30th. Yeah, so it's about a quarter of what we had hoped for the whole program.
The funds that we paid,
I don't have a final number on, but
No,
I mean,
no,
it's
I-
about 25,000 a house is what we allocated for.
I know that, but there was $1 million or something given to the contractor, is that correct?
Oh, I mean, it's much higher than that.
Oh.
This one, I mean, for 200 houses, that's
No,
a
no,
lot
no, no,
higher.
no, I'm just not talking about what you paid for the houses, what you paid the contractor.
Yeah, I do not have the specific, I mean,
But
it's,
somebody has that, I was.
yeah, they get a certain amount of money that covers doing the work and also their internal costs. So I don't have that itemized, but it has been, it will be.
Okay, if someone could provide the details
Yeah.
of the contract, that'd be great. Thank you.
Excuse, Chair.
Yes, sir.
We mentioned $25,000 per home. What happens when homes fall underneath that? They need less repairs. Do we recalibrate for that?
Well, yeah, we haven't spent that. So that's still in the pot, so to speak, for other homes.
So that just allows us to rehab more houses.
Yeah.
It allows us to, if they only need $10,000, they're only going to get $10,000. So that's another $15,000 that we can take on to the next homeowner and the next homeowner. But the ceiling is $25,000.
Okay, is this the area where we're talking about Group A and Group B?
Correct.
In terms of the housing? Okay. And so right now, he mentioned we had 203 houses out of, what, $4.5 million? That pretty much where we are with that?
I think that's what's been invoiced so far, yes.
Okay, and then out of the total $5 million, the other $500 million, he still has to finish up on that contract, and then?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway.
Anyone else? Very good. Economic development.
Sure. What do we have? Okay, I'll try to work off the presentation instead of my sheet. First item is the business enhancement grants. That has been a program that has been around for, I think, since like 2019, 2020-ish. So it's $500,000 that goes towards helping businesses that are looking to grow or establish themselves in Akron. Actually, I'm finishing one up from this past year right now, which you guys are probably all familiar with the Nightlight Theater. You know, they're doing a second screen expansion program, and that's one of the ones that we selected from the last year. We go down to even small things like Rubber City Clothing was looking to, get a new $7,000 piece of equipment to help them make shirts quicker and better. We did a matching grant with that for half of that. So those are the sorts of things that go under that program. The downtown CDC is still something we've been looking to establish and get going. Mayor Malik is working on, trying to get that going as well. I think we've had this number in the budget for a couple of years now. We've never spent it. So this is, again, to allow the downtown CDC to get started and work on projects. The Interbelt Master Plan, I think we've all heard of that. We got $1 million from the Reconnecting Communities grant to do a program or to do a design and come up with an RFP for, what could happen, planning, not design, for what could happen with the Interbelt. I think we anticipate spending about half of that this year. There will be an RFQ that goes out shortly to hire a planning team to come up with a master plan for the Interbelt. That is what this amount is for. I think land banking is, opportunity purchases of land throughout the city can be for, housing projects, can be for, we've done industrial parks in the past. Maslin Road Industrial Park actually can go away. That was 250 in GO and 500 in Department of Transportation, but we have, including Hillendale, which was at Planning Commission this last week, we have 2 projects that we're looking to put into Maslin Road, and they will be doing their own infrastructure improvements on that, so we do not need to foot the bill. Rubber Bowl, the LTA has an option to purchase land at the airport that will require the relocation of the BMX and our skate park. We're looking at the Rubber Bowl as the preferred site for at least one, if not both, of those projects. So this would get us started on preparing the site for BMX.
Okay, very good.
Oh yeah, any questions so far, I guess?
Okay, Mr. Garrett first.
Thank you, Chairman. The Interbelt Master Plan, a lot of constituents were asking about being displaced. What are the plans for building homes in that Interbelt section there?
Well, that is what this is to do, is to come up with a plan.
Okay.
And we received $1 million from the federal government to come up with a plan. And that is what we're looking to spend the money to do, to get a planning team to come up with a good plan to address, development or not development at the Interbelt, depending on, with an eye towards equity for what has been done in the past.
Okay, and to that commission or plan, or how are you putting together that whole plan, or what type of input are you getting as regards to that?
Well, we are putting out a request for qualifications for planning teams.
Okay.
So we have not, and that includes, that will, that planning team will also have the work that was done by Ms. Agbu for the Interbelt study, and, there will be public engagement throughout.
Can I add to that? With Interbelt, it's actually a 2-phase process. So we are looking at this million that we received from DOT of it's actually like 960,000 for planning. And once we have that planning document, we can then take that document, so that's phase 1. And then phase 2 is going to either DOT or HUD as a phase 2 to help us pay for that work. So this is just the first step in a multi-step process to decide what we're going to do with the land. If it stays open space, then it could stay that. But if it's something else, then we were looking at utilizing this document to go to different funding sources and say, this is our vision, can you help us pay for it? But it is a multi-year project.
Okay.
Project and process.
Gotcha, thank you.
Mr. Hanna?
I think this is an ongoing project because if I recall, a year or 2 years ago, you had city meetings. You had one meeting down at the Urban League, you recall, and then you also had a meeting on 59.
Correct.
And so to continue to fund this effort to a dead-end street, and that's what it appears to me like. It is a dead-end street with no results.
And this is, and again, the money for this planning project was a grant received by the federal government. I think we were the only people in Ohio, if I remember correctly, to receive this. So, and that's part of it. We've spent a long time getting feedback and engagement, a couple years, as you said. Now I think we're at the point to try to move forward, and we have the funding to do so. So that's what this is for. Yeah.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes, Mr. Volman, you mentioned the downtown CDC support that, like, we haven't spent the dollars the last couple of years.
Correct.
But it seems like, I mean, we have given dollars to our downtown community, whether it was COVID or dollars or ARPA dollars, I meant to say.
Correct.
Right.
But the downtown CDC is a specific entity, similar to a well or other, community development corporations to look to spur development for downtown.
So it's not like for existing businesses?
Not specifically for existing businesses. That is more those would more fall under the business enhancement grant that was earlier on the page.
It's almost like creating a North Akron CDC that will focus on downtown.
On the residential side or commercial side?
No, primarily commercial. I mean, but yes, I mean, if
Primarily
yeah.
commercial, that's
It will be to, the downtown plan is in the process of being revitalized. Its purpose will be to implement that plan similar to, the Middlebury plan for the well or, other development plans that have come out for other areas that have CDCs.
Okay. Further questions? Everybody good? Okay, Miss Linda Mobian?
Just so that I'm clear, and now James, I can't think of her name, and I know my husband would kill me, because I know she's from Africa. Yabo?
Liz Agbu.
Abu, okay. I can only tell you that I have just been amazingly impressed with the work that she has done and how thoughtful she's been in the process. So this may take some time, but I think it'll be time well spent as long as we are including the citizens with the end result, whatever it may be. I may not be around, but I have just been very pleased with her work and how thoughtful she's been in including all kinds of groups in what she's trying to gather in terms of where do we go from here? How do we make the necessary repairs and how do we move forward? So I think it involves a lot of work, but I think it's be work well spent in order to get it right this time. So that's all I have to offer.
Anyone else?
That's the goal.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things in the Beacon, back in the day, it brought up something about Mayor Pasquale, and I guess there was funding for consulting through the JED program for like $100 and some thousand, what have you. Is that still necessary? Is that consulting still needed, or how does that work with that JED program?
I am not, I was not in the role I'm in now when Mayor Pasquale was mayor, so I don't know specifically about it, but I do not believe we have a contract for consulting paid by JED for the Interbelt, correct?
That's an operating thing, isn't it?
Pardon me?
Is that operating? I'm not sure what.
He may have hired a consultant to come up with a plan for the Interbelt, is that what?
Correct. It was
Yeah.
dealing with the JED program. It was a consulting firm. I could bring it up, but it
Yeah.
was.
I don't think we have that anymore.
These are federal funds,
Yeah.
and per federal guidelines, we have to follow whatever, section 202 or whatever, so it has to be procured. We have to put it out to bid. We're choosing to go nationally, so it will be an RFQ process, and we will assemble a committee to help us review those applications once.
If you want to get a hold of me, and I can look into what may have been done in the past, but we do not have a consultant. Our consultant for the last 3 years on the Interbelt has been Ms. Agbu. Mayor Pasquale may have had a contract for something else prior, but that's not currently under contract with the city.
Thank you.
And this administration has decided anything 50,000 or more, we will definitely be privy to all of that. And probably contracts that are less than that, but we will know beforehand.
Thank you, Ms. Amobian.
Oh, no, we will continue. Okay, well, I think we're on to the next slide, so. The Bounce Innovation Hub, this is the second floor project. This came through council to get a grant from the EDA to do that project. We were successful. So this would be the build out of that project. The Community Development Corporation support is an annual RFP that we put out for the CDCs to apply for. Ms. Boyes is probably familiar with that more than most, and we've increased the amount from $300,000 to $500,000 for the year. And that RFP will go out, Helen, probably in the next couple months? Yeah.
Out shortly.
The polymer cluster support, as you know, was well covered by the media. We got named a tech hub by the federal government, and the state as well is doing, and one of them is tech hubs and one is innovation hubs, and I always forget which is which for the funding, but both the state and the federal government will be putting out millions upon millions of dollars for one for innovation hubs and one for tech hubs. We are very confident that we will get substantial amount of money for the polymer cluster for both. We have, under the previous administration and the current administration is going along as well. We had committed to a $500,000 match over 3 years. May actually now become 4 years, which will be helpful. But this is that portion of the match for this year. And we will be coming back to council probably in March with a grant agreement for the polymer cluster. And the next one is the University of Akron. Again, that was a grant for the Polsky building project. It came to council towards the end of last year. It's $1 million grant over 4 years. This would be that portion of that million.
Very good.
Are there any questions on
Questions?
that page?
Ms. Boyce?
Thank you. You mentioned that the community development support had been increased, which I appreciate that. I did have a question. Is this operating support or is this still project-specific report?
It is both. So it is not a flat operating dollar amount. We can't do that. So whatever they request has to have a project associated with that.
And are those, how do I ask this? So considering there are many similar things to CDCs, is there, what is the typical grant amount? Like, is there support for smaller CDCs trying to do smaller projects, just the larger ones?
So last year, the average allocation was $50,000.
Okay.
When we had $300,000 available, it was $50,000.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hardy?
Just want to say kudos on the bounce and call that out. I mean, most people probably wouldn't know that Akron has been home to an accelerator program for longer than most U.S. cities, but the evolution over the last couple of years has been just tremendous. So the fact that you've got, almost $2.2 million from the federal government, and we're able to match it with JED dollars, which is was the spirit of the JED program to begin with. And that's where my question, Mr. Chairman, from before on the JED bonds was coming, is now we're starting to really see the fruits of those labors in income tax that we're able to put towards our own economic development. So kudos. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. It's going to be a great project.
Very good.
We have one more slide.
One more slide is Great Streets. I think most people are familiar with Great Streets, but we are looking, I think it's right about the same allocation as Great Streets was awarded last year. We put, in the previous year, we just said Great Streets facade. I know Ms. Graham Moore, who's coming in, has thoughts on how to help the businesses in the Great Streets, so we kind of wanted to make it more generic. We don't know exactly what the program will be, but we'll be spending about the same amount of money helping the local businesses as we have in the past. And then the other part is for public improvements in the Great Streets area. It's about the same amount of money as last year, I think.
Mr. Lombardo?
So, what was the woman's name? It's not LaTonda Mobley anymore?
The new economic development director is Susie Graham Moore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of you know her more as Susie Graham.
Yeah.
But
And so these programs, as we talked, that, they're placeholders, but some of them, but these two line items, I mean, that's like a live program. We're going to
Yes.
have that in 2024, right?
yes.
We will
I
have
just
it-
don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have taken a pause on the Great Streets facade program because we had a lot of catching up to do. There was more money allocated in approved grants than there was money in the budget. And we are still, we think we now know of all of the promises that were made, and we are looking to finish all of them now. We finished up one just last week. And I think we have a handful of, the 2023 allocation of CD for Great Streets was not enough to cover all of the Great Streets, so we kind of started going into 24. At some point in time, we will be looking at relaunching a Great Streets Business Assistance Program in 2024. Whether that's facade grants or that's something different will be, the new administration, how they want to, and my new boss, who starts February 1st, what her opinions are of how that money should be allocated for small business assistance. But we want to keep the same amount. We think it would still be about $30,000 a business, however that is that we, whatever that program is in the future. So this allocates it. And again, CD, we come back later with a new CD budget once we know the final number.
So you were saying, however that is. In other words, like, before it was you come up with 5,000, we'll match you 5,000. So the program doesn't have to be a matching thing.
It actually has not been matching for the entire time that it started. They got rid of the match component
Since COVID.
before around COVID time, before I started in the position. So we have not had a match for the Great Streets grant for, at least 3 or 4 years now.
Okay.
Very good. Tina Boyd?
Just quickly, just to make sure I understand. So it's possible that there will be no facade grants issued this year, other than the ones that have been issued
It's
prior?
possible. I doubt that, but, we will be spending the money on small business assistance. How that looks like, I don't know yet, because the whole team, we gotta get the whole team on board and figure it out.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Helen Tomic?
So to wrap things up, this is the first part of our presentation. I do realize this is a lot of information. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If there's something as you're looking through the budget and you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask this question, you can give us a call. I'll give you the number in a second. Or if there's something that just doesn't make any sense at all, you can feel free to give us a call and we could try to answer your questions. You can either call or email might be better, because if you have a question and everybody else may have the same question, then we can share that with the entire council as a whole. But my email address is htomic@akronohio.gov. Phone number is 375-2090.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Hannah?
Could you say that a little bit faster?
Anyone else? Very good.
I say it all the time. I apologize.
Very good. That concludes our budget review for this time. Ms. Biviano?
Council will meet at 6:30. Thank you.